Yeah, that's a tough thing to do. Really tough thing. And I guess when you're first in the throes of it, that's almost impossible to
Yeah.
imagine that you take on responsibility for what happened.
Did you push record?
Thanks for tuning back into Second Act TV. Jim Griffith and Emily Liu are with me for another segment talking, well, love and sexuality after 50. Jim, Emily, thanks so much for joining me again.
We
Thank
love
you.
being with
Thank
you.
you, Silke. And today we really are excited to talk about saving your marriage after infidelity.
Yeah,
Such a painful
big topic. Jim and Emily, of course, if you haven't seen our previous segments, and we'll link to those, are an intimacy and sex coaching team, and they specialize in helping people, of our vintage, if you will, in our second act of life. And in today's segment, how do we deal with infidelity? So let me throw it over to you. How do we approach saving a marriage or a relationship after one partner steps out?
Well, it's a really difficult thing. I mean, the truth of the matter is there's a lot of pain that's created when there's such a breach of trust. And we really have to think about the process of rebuilding a relationship from the ground up. And that process really begins with an intensive healing that will allow you to get to the point where you can start to build the relationship. That intensive healing process is characterized by typically a lot of therapy, potentially with a coach or a counselor or a therapist, to really guide you safely through the process of dealing with all of the emotions that come up with a breach of trust, like infidelity.
Well, you bring up a super good point, which is, what we want to talk about how to, what to do, what steps, whatever actions to do to save a marriage. The most important is that we're even ready to de-escalate the pain.
Right.
Which is so intense, and I think you mentioned that in your notes as well, that the person who stepped out of the marriage or the relationship, they need to expect a rocky road.
Yeah, this is not an easy thing to go through, to witness the pain you have inflicted on your partner, and it will reflect back and you'll feel it too. I mean, that's part
Right.
of the process. And once you work through that as a couple, uh, you'll find that the intensity of the emotions begins to lessen a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you can start to actually work to rebuild a relationship again, to really reinvent your marriage or your relationship.
The other thing to really understand is that the victim,
Mm-hmm.
let's say it is the wife who was cheated on, it's not about just like pointing the finger. It's him, it's him, it's him. He's the cheater. Make a U-turn into yourself. It takes two to tango.
Mm-hmm.
What are your contributions
Mm-hmm.
to the relationship that made him feel like his needs were not met? Were you being too masculine and ordering him around like his mother? Okay, so this goes back to the last segment we recorded, and enough of that ordering around, he's just gonna throw his hands up and just give up. Like, okay, I'm gonna, come and make bring home the bacon to support the kids and the wife and whatever. I'll go out on my business trips, and then all of a sudden he meets somebody at a bar, or he's with his executive assistant and they're sharing really intimately about their lives, and he's like, whoa, I never been heard like this before.
I've never felt this
Felt
connection
this
in a long time
exactly.
from my wife. Right.
Exactly. So look into yourself. How safe do you make him feel to actually lead you in a relationship? How safe have you felt to share your open heart? Because men, they love seeing a cracked open heart from a woman. So you also have to look at, okay, yeah, I haven't been giving him sex. Okay, I've been ordering him around, and so, oh, okay, now this makes sense. So look at your contributions, and also you have to own up to how you contributed to the failure of that commitment.
Yeah, and I think that, a connection, an intimate connection like this can degrade over time. It erodes over time if you don't do the right kind of maintenance. So, now that the breaches of trust has happened, the next thing to start doing when the intensity of that emotional healing is starting to subside is really to focus on what are the needs underlying what really happened. What was it that actually happened and why? Getting to the bottom of that is going to give you lots of insights about what you need to be doing as you think about rebuilding this relationship.
Yeah.
Because typically, when someone strays in a marriage, it's because their needs aren't getting met,
Yeah.
right? So that's where we would begin to rebuild a relationship after infidelity.
Yeah, that's a tough thing to do. Really tough thing. Again, I guess when you're first in the throes of it, that's almost impossible to imagine that you take on responsibility for what happened. What a huge step, a huge growth. This is what I'm trying to say. If you can get past that and actually take responsibility for the situation. Anyway, I digress.
No, not at all. That's the central idea here is that for rebuilding to happen, you have to dampen down and process all of the pain and get past that to the point where you can be vulnerable again. You can admit your own role in what had happened, and that goes for both parties. It's true for the guy as well. Is that he may not have been communicating that his needs weren't being met, right? So it isn't just the woman here; it's both parties who have to take ownership and accountability for what has transpired. But once you get to the point where you can start to understand your partner's needs, then you're in a position to rebuild that relationship. So the discovery of needs process itself is something that we encourage couples to really focus on in this phase of rebuilding a relationship. Understanding your own needs. Most people really don't take the time to understand their own needs, never mind their partner's needs. The way that we guide couples here is we ask them to do an exercise.
Okay.
And the exercise goes like this. Write down all of your needs. Write down alongside each need, which of those needs do you expect your partner to help you meet? And then the third column is, how is your partner doing at helping to meet those needs?
Yeah, and those needs could be intellectual, they could be emotional, like sharing feelings, and even the need to have your partner stay attractive and fit is a legitimate need.
Absolutely, yeah.
And some people could say, well, that's so shallow. Like, oh my
It's
gosh,
not shallow at all.
I gained or let's say, some women would say, well, I gained 40 pounds after the baby, I never lost it. Well, okay. Part of sexual turn on is also the physical. If you're in sweats with holes all day and never will wear makeup again, well, do you want to just be roommates? No, by definition, you're in a partnership because there is a sexual attraction. And if that is gone, that's a legitimate need that your husband has that is not being met. So what is the part of you that is preventing you from prioritizing your health?
Yeah. And that goes both ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally.
Exactly.
The guy puts on 50 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. And starts to become a couch potato.
Exactly.
It absolutely, you have to have that.
What
That
happened to
hot
what happened to that
athlete.
six-pack I married,
Yeah, or he doesn't groom himself anymore. The weekend he never
He
shaves
hasn't
or
bought any
whatever.
new clothes in 15 years. It's one of those things where you really have to be conscious. Both parties really have to be conscious of their attractiveness to their partner and to really work at that and to communicate about that.
I was just kind of not off topic, but a little off script perhaps based on our points that we're discussing. But one of the things that was said in another video is, think about how you were when you first started dating.
Exactly.
Because we get so comfortable with each other that we do stuff that we would never do, or appearance-wise,
Annoying habits,
bodily functions.
Yes,
And it's a huge turnoff. For me, it was.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, once in a while it's okay, but if you're just doing it and
Right.
you make the decision not to go in the other room to not gross your partner out,
Yeah.
then it becomes like, who am I living with? A frat boy?
Exactly. Exactly. So yes, all that is you'd be surprised how yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, that can contribute.
Anyway,
It's
it's
just
one of
it's
those
the
little
little
things
things
that
that can
you
contribute
take a
to
hundred of those little things and it becomes a very big thing, right?
yeah.
So
And the other point I want to bring up is that it's very difficult to overcome infidelity issues on your own because you need a neutral third party. And yes, some people
good point. Yeah,
hire
especially for that initial
therapists
phase.
and
Yeah.
counselors and coaches, but they're not hiring the right therapist or counselors or coaches because they may be taking sides with the woman
Yeah,
to
we
say, oh
actually
yeah,
see this in the couples that we
it's
work with. It's like
it's just
they're
they're not getting to the root causes of the childhood parts that contributed to the need for an affair. If you don't get to the root causes, it's very difficult to save a marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to come back to the needs exercise and talk about the rest of it because I think it's really interesting. So the first step is that you write down your own needs, and as I said, you detail which part of those needs you expect your partner to help with and how are they doing. The second step is for you to write down what you think your partner's needs are, what their expectations are for you to meet those needs, and how you think you're doing in meeting your partner's needs. And then ask the partner to do the same exact exercise and compare notes. That opens up a conversation about so many different things that can be really constructive. It's like, oh my God, I had no idea that was important to you.
Well, I have no
Um,
idea your love language was acts of service and I never do anything for you.
Right, yeah, that you
I,
needed me to do that. Right. So this simple exercise, it sounds simple, but it's actually a lot of work and a lot of introspection, can really reveal gaps between your understanding of your partner's needs and their understanding of your needs. So it opens up the communication channels in a sort of non-threatening way. It can be kind of a fun way. It's like, oh, really? Wow, I wish I'd known that, right? And now I know what to do to help you meet that need. So it's a really constructive exercise at the beginning of this to help lay the foundation with a bunch of information about what you need to do in a relationship. So I just wanted to bring that up as sort of the one of the first steps that we recommend is that you go through that exercise.
Yeah. I guess what comes to mind for me, and I just have to ask it, is how prevalent are people to actually go along with that? Like I'm again envisioning my first marriage. I couldn't imagine my ex-husband writing down a list of needs, and he would think that's stupid.
and that's why if someone thinks it's stupid, this is where you need the neutral third party.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because they're like, oh, she's being my mother, or she's being the teacher. She's reading all of these relationship
Yeah.
books,
That's a good point.
and I can't do that. So that's why that's why we each need our own healer, therapist to talk to, and any couples who are having conflict, you need a third party. It's hard to do on your own.
And the other comment I would have is if there's a partner now having had an infidelity incident, if the offending partner thinks that any of the repair methods are stupid, that's kind of a red flag
Yes.
for me. It would be. Are you really committed to this marriage or not? Or and that's what we would say is that the very foundation of this is reestablishing a commitment that you want to stay in this marriage, and that you're willing to put the energy into it and commit the time to it to work through some very difficult things.
Yeah. And I also think that sometimes, an affair can help a marriage.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
It wakes you up to the thought
Yes.
of, oh my God, what did I do? I could lose her or him. I don't know if that's, the main or, what happens most of the time. I think
It depends on the counselor. I mean, there are a lot of books written that's like an affair can jolt you into the deepest intimacy
Right.
you never imagine
Yeah.
you can have. But that is very incumbent upon the strength of that counselor.
Right.
and safety and the attunement between that couple and the counselor.
And I think it's also dependent on the state of love between the couple, right? If they just feel so disconnected and so unhappy in the marriage, one of the possible outcomes here is that, maybe this isn't the right marriage for
Right.
one or both of them.
Exactly.
And the infidelity was just that, oh, that's a great excuse. I could finally leave.
Yeah.
So for
Good
some people,
point.
it's like, oh,
Good
you know what? I
point.
want to leave anyway. I really didn't have a reason. Oh, I'm glad he had the affair or she had the affair. I'm out of here now.
That
Now
is
I
a
can start
great
anew.
point. I actually had a friend that, and I'm like, what are you doing? You're going to get caught. This is so obvious. And that's exactly what she wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but again, we digress. This is about saving, saving. But I think it needs to be acknowledged to have a conversation like this, that there are other outcomes, and that's okay too. But they can be saved if two people
If
want
both
it, and
people
if
want
you
it.
get to that step. We're starting to come to the end of our segment. I want to make sure that we cover all the important points. So let me throw it back to you.
Yeah, so I think once we go through the needs exercise, and that really is about rebuilding intimacy and rebuilding understanding and connection, the next thing that you're going to want to do is align on what your goals are for the marriage, right? Are you committed to the marriage? How do you see the marriage in the future? Develop a shared vision for what that relationship can be in the future. And then you have something to work towards. You can start establishing a plan to get from where you are now to that new vision of a marriage.
If you are on the same sheet of music. If you're not on the same sheet of music, then just move on and don't waste the time to try to save it.
Yeah.
And then I think the third thing that we want to bring up here is, once you have a common vision for what you want this marriage to be, there's a new way of communicating that you need to develop, because this happened for a reason, and it's likely that your communication practices in the marriage, your maintenance of the marriage,
Blame you, why you?
was part of the problem, is that you lost the ability to communicate with each other on a regular basis. So creating new communication habits, this is the U-turn idea, but it's also more than that. It's setting up and setting aside a regular check-in where you are able to be vulnerable and completely open about where you are at that point emotionally, and also to acknowledge the effort and the progress that you're making towards your goals. So it's both it's both a check-in in the sense of here's where I am, and also a opportunity to reinforce the energy and the progress that you're making in forging this new vision of a relationship.
And for the woman who wants to drop the masculine energy in the relationship so that the husband can lead again, this is also sharing vulnerably. I need your help in pointing out when I get a little too you or too directive. Let me know so I could do a do-over and let you lead. Because you want that attraction back, and so that he's not tempted to have an affair with somebody who's feminine and flowy and allows him to lead. Then it's important for the women to learn how to be in your feminine side.
Great point. We had that conversation with John Gray too. That's one of his big points. Just understanding those energies, and every time we have these conversations, there's an aha moment, I think, for me, as well as I'm sure our viewers. And I'm really looking forward to the comments on this segment. I think they'll be very diverse. Again, depending on whether or not you're going through something like this or have. And I do want to encourage our viewers to leave comments, because Jim and Emily are fabulous at addressing our viewer comments when we post these videos. So I'm going to link, of course, to all of your information, to your book, Climax, Why Great Leaders Need Love Affairs. And before I close out, anything else you want to add?
No, I think, the last thing is go to our website, intimacyandgreatsex.com, and download that guide to greater intimacy, because these are actionable tips you can take today with anyone.
It's a great tool to help really establish that new kind of communication that you're looking to establish to build this new relationship. And yeah, I just want to thank you, Silke, for yet another opportunity to speak with you about something that's really important.
Well, I'm glad to have you guys, and I look forward to having you back on soon on Second Act TV.
Okay, great.
Thanks for watching. If you haven't already done so, please be sure to subscribe to our channel. And if there's a topic that you'd like to have us cover, visit our website, secondact.tv. We have a little red suggestion box in the upper right-hand corner of our site. Just click on that, drop us a line. We'd love to hear from you. See you next time.